All right, here we are. It seems like everything's working this time. Um, this is the second time I'm doing my review of the Ghost Monument because the first time the audio just went like that, and there was no words, and it sucked. I was like, ah, shit, I have to do this all over again. Okay, so because of that, I'm going to do this a little different. Let me just summarize the whole episode for you. So start at there's the intro, which was actually pretty neat. It was one of the few parts I did like about the episode. Then we have this mysterious opening where we see a couple different people, two different strangers, I mean, from two different ships, and half of the companion slash doctor is with one of the group of one of the persons, and one is with the other. Anyways, the one lands on the planet, then the other crash lands on the planet, nearly wiping the others that are already on the planet off. Then they go into a tent, and it's like it's a race between the boy and the girl, and they're aliens, though they don't look like aliens, and that's like the cheapest design I've ever seen. Anyways, they go on a boat. They get to the other side of the boat. They go to some ruins. Some generic robots attack them. They go inside the warehouse thing, ruin things, underground in like a sewer thing. After going in the sewer thing, they find some notes about the scientists who were kidnapped and forced to like do these evil weapon making shit. And we see the weapons, which are sheets. The main threat in this episode are sheets. 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 Sorry, just had to make sure. Sheets. Fucking sheets are sheets. Sheets. As the villain that's trying to be threatening. Anyways, they try to kill a person. Doesn't work. They save the guy. Oh, I should mention, there's a few random conversations about like emotions and stuff that have no bearing on the plot, especially between the Nan thing, whoever she was. I already forgotten who she was in the last episode, and I already forgotten her. She was the one that died, and like she died. That's all I remember. Let's see. Shoot. Oh, and as for the two racers, well, the guy is like, I can take care of myself, don't need anyone's help, and he's a little bit of a prick. But the woman is like this perfect, like almost saint figure that's a victim and has to save her family who've been attacked by evil menaces. Anyways, we find out later on with the scientist thing, we find out that the people that made the scientists do the thing was the pimple faces from the last episode. I mean, they're the teeth thing, but I'm just going to call them pimple faces because they're not a real threat. They look too cartoonish to even be considered a threat. Not saying. Mountain Dew. Oh, good to have some Mountain Dew. Okay, so let's see. Sheets, they save them. They run out and they go up above, and they face off the sheets. They defeat it by a fucking cigar. I'll get into detail of that stuff. Anyways, they come to the end. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the monument. It isn't a ghost and it isn't a monument, even though the episode's titled "The Ghost Monument." But the actual so-called monument is just the TARDIS, obviously, that she was going after to get. So let's see. Anyways, they go to the race. The doctor suggests the two of them go together and win, which I'll get into in a minute. They win. The doctor and companions are left, and they're like, oh no, we don't have the TARDIS. Then the TARDIS appears, and they go in the TARDIS, and they leave. Okay, that's the story. Let's go into the whole shebang. Now, as I mentioned before, I did like the intro. I thought the intro was pretty good. And it was actually not a bad intro. It was not too clunky or anything like that. And the music was nice. It was nice to have a little more synthier type of intro. So, I mean, it is sad that we don't have the face anymore, but it works for what it is. Then the first few minutes are not too bad. Mainly because we don't know what's going on, so it's left as a mystery. It's like, ooh, I hope the whole episode plays out like this, and leaving to a fun mystery where we're just trying to pick up all the pieces. And of course, they shoehorned in what the story's about in like 10 minutes or less. So there went that notion. Uh, as I already mentioned before, there is the problem where the guy's like, I can take care of himself, don't need anyone else, and the woman's like practically a saint in the race. Of course, the woman basically wins and everything, and the guy just gets the shit beat out of him and even gets shot in the arm. Or, no, it was a foot, my bad. Whatever. And of course, you know, he wouldn't have gotten anything if the doctor was like, why don't you share the prize? And the only reason, I'm going to say this right now, the only reason they both went and won together as a duo prize winning thing was not just because of the doctor's suggestion. It was because the writer set up that this guy only thought to take care of himself, and the whole episode was about teaching him to work with others, which was just so slapped on and lazy. And face it, I have to face it. The fact is, this episode was really SJW, and one of the most SJW scenes in this was the bullshit pacifism preachy shit. Okay, let me explain something. I know it's very difficult to explain the Doctor's character, but I'll try my best here. The Doctor is not a pacifist. That does not mean he likes violence. He abhors violence, and he tries as much as possible to avoid using violence if possible. But when push comes to shove, and he realizes there's no other option, there's no other way, and the villains are going to do something really horrible to a bunch of innocent people, the Doctor is willing to do what he has to. He's willing to actually fight and or kill, or have other people fight or kill. You know, just look at Ace as a fine example. And I'm going to bring up Ace in a few minutes, so hear me out. Okay, so we get to the bullshit pacifist scene, and they find, this guy finds this gun to fight off the generic robots. He's like, all right, I'll use this gun to fight off the generic robots. And the Doctor's like, no, you can't do that. It's like, fuck that. He goes to kill the generic robots. He kills them really awesomely, but then they come back to life, and they go after him, and he has to duck back inside. And the Doctor has to overfry their body frame thing, and blah, blah, blah. And this was just a huge load of bullshit for a number of reasons. The main reason is they're just generic robots. They're not artificial intelligence. They had no life of their own, and they're going to kill all of them. What does it matter how they're destroyed if they're destroyed? It's clear that the only fucking reason they did this was just to not only enforce that the Doctor was a pacifist and always right, but the fact that nobody else is allowed to actually do anything cool. Like, imagine if the same scene was done with Ace. Imagine if in Remembrance of the Daleks, Ace is taking that grenade launcher, about to shoot in the Dalek's eye, and the Doctor said, no, you can't do that, blah, 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 bullshit pacifism, blah, blah, blah. And Ace is like, fuck that shit. Shoots down the Dalek, only to find it not be harmed anyway and attack them. And then the Doctor has to use some bullshit technobabble nonsense to save the day. What a load of bullshit that would be. Why would you do that? It will completely undermine... Not to mention the fact that the guy was the guy who couldn't ride the bike from the last episode, but the guy who couldn't ride a bike can now suddenly fucking use a gun and go all Call of Duty. It's just so sloppy and lazy and just so shoehorned in there. It is a load of bullshit, and I hated it. And like I said, it's not that the Doctor loves violence or anything. No, he abhors it. But it doesn't mean he won't use violence if there's no other option against a threat that is going to kill them or kill other people. Anyways, I already mentioned the race thing. So, one other thing I do want to mention is the freaking scientist thing. In the scientist letter, they make some excuse of how they made these horrible weapons and they were forced to it because all their family was kidnapped, which annoys me to no end, because here's the thing, okay? Scientists make weapons because they get paid for it. That's where a lot of the funding goes to make weapons. They don't necessarily need to be forced or kidnapped to do that shit. I'm sick of them trying to, make scientists all benevolent when they're not. Scientists can do just as many macabre things as good things, and vice versa, just like any profession or any person can do. And yeah, I just feel like that was slapped on, like, oh, they were innocent. Also, why would they make such a shitty weapon? Like, their weapon is fucking sheets. Speaking of that, let's talk about the so-called climax of the story, which is, of course, it's the scene where the sheets try and threaten Now, this scene is so fucking stupid that I couldn't take it seriously. We had these sheets whirling around them and trying to say, ooh, dark, misty, dark, evil things. I'm talking of dark and evil. Ha ha ha. I know things about you. Look, I know about so and so. Ha 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 ha. And it's like you can't take it seriously because it's just a fucking pair of sheets. Like, dude, you want to destroy them? Get a flamethrower, go. Psh. I'm sorry, I gotta take that seriously. They're fucking sheets. Not only that, they're dirty, filthy, rotten sheets. So, like, how are you supposed to take that seriously? And then they defeat the sheets by using a fucking cigar. Let me repeat that again. They use a fucking cigar. A fucking cigar to defeat the sheets. Seriously. What the fuck? I mean, oh, literally, what the fuck? Anyways, oh, then there's this scene where, you know, the Doctor and Commander's like, oh no, we're trapped here, and we're screwed, and oh no, this is the end. And of course it's not the end, and then the TARDIS is finally revealed. And now let's get to the TARDIS design. Now, I know a lot of people are upset with TARDIS design, or not upset. Me personally, it's kind of like, I don't mind it entirely. Some of the background aspects of TARDIS I like. I like that it's a bit bigger. But the problem is, one of the big things is the arch thing. The arch crystal thing for the TARDIS console is just too close, and it's too clustered. So it blocks a lot of, like, if you want to do farther back out shots of the TARDIS console, you can't really do that because those crystals get in the way too much. If they wanted to do the arch thing, they should have made it bigger, a bit thinner, less clunky, and put it higher up and a little more round, a little over, so it doesn't get in the way of the console itself. You know, it's just too close and too clustered, I feel. And another big thing, and this is one of the things that pisses me off most about the console, is the fact they don't have the moving part. In the center of the console, in every console that I can possibly think of, whether new Who or old Who, there was always in the center console this moving up and down thing that always moved. And this time, they replaced that with a fucking block of crystal, which is so fucking lazy and cheap, it's not even funny. So yeah, that's my feelings on the console. The rest, I don't mind as much. But seriously, the arch in that centerpiece really pissed me off. Let's see. A few other things I want to mention. I forgot to mention this last time, so I'll mention it now. The music. Okay, other than the intro, the music in both this episode and last episode are just not there. Like, I on one hand, I'm glad that the music isn't all over the place, exploding in your ears. But on the other hand, it's just not prevalent at all. Almost the entire thing has no music at all, or it's just a cheap beat sound that you could have downloaded from the YouTube audio library. So it's like, what? I mean, I just don't even know how to, like, yeah, it's just too low. There's no, it has no impact on any of the visuals in the story at all. It's just, it's absent. It feels absent. Even when it's there, it feels absent. And if only there was a good middle ground where you have recognizable, good-sounding scores, but they didn't get in the way of the visual story that should be being told that isn't, but still. But yeah, that's my thought on that. Another thing I want to mention real quick is the freaking ads they have, where they're like, they show a clip for a future part of the episode before it's even aired. Let me explain. Okay, you're watching the episode, then we see a clip for a few minutes later in the episode, shown earlier in the episode. I just don't get that. It's like, it gets in the way of the episode itself. It's like, why are you doing that? Why would you jump a little scene ahead earlier in earlier in the recording or the programming air date thing, just to do an ad? I don't get that. It doesn't work for me. So yeah, I already mentioned. So let me see here. I mentioned the bullshit pacifism thing. Mentioned the race thing, and it did mention that. see, I mentioned the music and mentioned the intro, the opening. Oh, one thing I do want to mention, I almost forgot. I barely mentioned it, but seriously, what is it with the two aliens looking so human? It's just so cheap and lazy. It's like you couldn't come up with any design for them, even in costume. You couldn't make the two alien racers like green or purple or pink or something. Just make them human or look human and act human and talk human. Well, we're so and so planet, but you're fucking human. Do everything human. And so far, Jodie's performance still hasn't impressed me because she's just being a female Matt Smith at this point. She's a knockoff of a knockoff. You know, she's a doctor knocking off another knockoff that's knocking off Tenet again. I'm so sick of the zany, eccentric, youthful doctor. I'm seriously. You do realize with each regeneration, you can change the personality and character of the doctor? You don't have to keep repeating the same fucking type of personality over and over again? I mean, have you even seen the original series? Just look how different the personality is of Hartnell's doctor to McCoy's doctor, okay? From the beginning of the series to the end of the series. They're completely different. Especially when you watch later McCoy episodes. Like, they're completely fucking different. And it's awesome. But now, they're all the same. Literally every doctor after David Tennant is just a cheap knockoff of David Tennant. The only one that had any personality that was remotely different was Capaldi. And even with him, he barely had time to really develop that personality because all the writers and directors and shit kept forcing him to act zany and eccentric. Okay, I know I already went on about that, but I'm just so sick and tired of it. You know, the funniest thing is, my initial fears the minute I heard Capaldi was leaving was that it'd just go straight back to that we'd have another youthful person that was being zany and eccentric. Like, right off the bat, I was like, they're going to go back and do that again. And I was right. The only difference was I didn't expect it to be with a woman. But outside of that, it's still the same thing. I just hope there isn't another romantic subplot with the doctor, because there's enough. We have no more of those, please. For God's sake, no more. For God's sake. And let's say God's sakes in terms of like figure of speech. So, but still, seriously, don't do that, please. Okay, I think it went on long enough. I hope this one works, so I don't have to do it again. This video review. Peace. Yeah.